Hello and welcome to this SlimDevOps episode 23, a Halloween special, no less.
Arrgh.
oh, yeah, hang on, I can...
Arrgh.
So, I think you're going to have to give this some setup, Pete. Why on earth are we dressed like pirates today?
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I dress like this every Thursday. Well, so the only adult costume that was left at Target last night, for me at least, was the pirate hat. So while I was going to do a Frankenstein type thing for our cursed container special, we turned into pirates, and cursed pirates no less. So Martin, why are you dressed as a pirate?
Because you told me to. I'm having words with HR tomorrow.
Well,
it's convenient.
I live streamed before, and now
you pitched the idea of doing this cursed containers idea. So we're going to debug a cursed container. At least that's the idea. Somewhat blind. I'm a little bit apprehensive. But when you mentioned this, and then I think earlier on today you said, that Ghost Pirate Captain Pete was going to make an appearance. I thought,
yes.
Well, there's interesting because I only have one costume, which happens to be a pirate from many years ago from one of my daughter's birthday parties. So rather conveniently, we're both on brand.
Yes. I think when we met this morning, it didn't take a lot of convincing to get the pirate costumes out.
Right,
so,
indeed.
But yes, that is the setup for today. So Captain Pete was cursed and is now a ghost pirate, and our photo app container. I know I had to make my own eye patch. That's how cursed I am as a pirate. If people remember, we've been working on this photo app container that's written in Python, and have been building that out. But now something's gone wrong. We've been cursed by an evil wizard. And we have some debugging to do. So this, we put out an article on the blog not too long ago, last week, I think, about common and proven debugging techniques. Got a lot of positive mentions on Twitter and stuff like that. And, community, as we were talking, said, hey, let's do some debugging. So we're going to see if we can put some of these techniques to use in sort of undoing our container, the curse on our container. And so, Martin, you are our hero. You are the hero
Apparently.
of the story. Yes, you survived the curse of the dreaded container wizard.
Okay.
And I am sort of the game master, evil, taking over captain. So I will be here to help you along.
Okay.
As you try to break the curse.
Okay. So if you want to play along, this is a bit unconventional, but it's a lot like some of the other Container 101s we've done. We have put in here, there's the SlimDevOps org on GitHub, Slim Containers. If you're rejoining us after doing one of the 101s before, you'll see that we have this debugging containers. So the cursed container is in here. So you can play along as well. So that's the container that we're going to be using. Right, well, I suppose then I should make a start at, running this container. So I've already checked out the repository. So the first thing I'm going to do is just build the container and run it. In fact, I suppose before we go any further, we should welcome back our friends. So hello, Big Pod and Eric and Takov and Monica and Yannick and did I see Danny as well? Thank you all for coming back for this stuff and nonsense. I hope you have some fun as we play along here. I can see lots of pirate jokes as well. Brilliant. So let's get this container built. So let's do that. So I'm going to build it, and I'm just going to build the container here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well that appears to have worked. So I'll run Docker run that and see what we get. Actually, before I do that, I suppose what we should have done is we should have actually looked at the Dockerfile. So this is the Dockerfile that's making our thing. So it's using a Slim Python. The work directory is app. It's copying some stuff in, running a test case, exposing port 5000. Fine. Got an entry point, some setup and a user. Okay, right. Well, let's run the container and see what we get. Oh. I've already got one running apparently. Oh, okay.
Double cursed. So
yeah, we said it was cursed. So right, let's kill whatever I have before.
I like where this is starting. So I think a couple other things that we'll be looking at in this container from the article. There's a lot of cool tools in Docker to debug containers. There's inspect, there's logs, there's being able to pause and attach to containers. And then there's also tools that we have as part of Slim.AI. Obviously, we have the SaaS platform, which we won't really be looking at today, but Docker Slim has this X-ray capability that shows sort of layer construction and stuff like that. So while we have a pretty seemingly innocuous, seemingly innocuous Docker container or Dockerfile to run, I think we're gonna run into perhaps a few contrived setups, but these are pretty common things that will happen to your containers that'll cause them not to run, and then we'll walk through sort of, Martin, you can kind of take us through how we're figuring it out. So what did you just do? It looks like something happened.
I've just run the container interactively, and I've mapped port 5000 because that's where it's running. But upon running the container, I appear to have a skull and crossbones. Apparently the magic flask. Okay, there's a clue here. The magic flask is not found. The tests failed. The container is cursed. Okay, serving the flask app. Lazy loading. Okay, so that's not good. So what am I going to do about this? I will... it says tests failed. I'm just going to kill this container off, because I seem to remember when I was looking... let's have a think. What could I do about this? We could use X-ray. You just mentioned X-ray. I think maybe that was my clue, right? So if I run docker slim X-ray and output the results of that to a file, I think momentarily, there we go. So let's take a look at that report and search for test. There's going to be a lot of those, so let's do that again and search for test.py. Okay, here we go. So running the Python tests, that seems to have done a bunch of stuff. There's a whole load of bytecode being compiled there. I can see here where it's building up all of the PyC files. Well, that seems perfectly fine. There's a lot of stuff being built there, and then we get on, and here's the next bit here. Here's the next layer. So that's 8. What was this up here? This was 7. And okay, so this one appears to be installing the app's requirements. Okay, I think they're backwards. I think so. If we in fact, let's just edit the Docker file. What have we got here? So we set the work directory. There's our test case. Here we go. And then we install. I'm going to say that maybe the test should run after the requirements have been satisfied. That's my first go at that. What do we think? Is anyone in chat ahead of me here? Is anyone?
Monica's idea is to turn 3 times and scratch a stay. So
okay.
Eric says he wishes he had skull and crossbones as his output from his cursed container from his stream last night. So looks like we're right on point with giving some debugging tools.
Yep.
Now you're rebuilding the container.
I've just rebuilt the container. So we should be able to see, in fact, if we do Docker Slim X-ray again, we should be able to see that now we know that we need to find oh goodness me, test.py. So there it is, and there's the requirements there, and then the next reference is here. So now the tests are running in layer 8 and the requirements are being installed in layer 7. So that feels better. So let's run the container again.
Yeah. Did you already? You did rebuild it and then you re-X-rayed it with Docker Slim.
Yeah. So I'm satisfied we've got the layers in the right order. So now I'm going to go and take a look at the running app. So I'm going to refresh this page. The curse commands you still. Oh. Okay.
Well,
I feel commands. Okay.
That looks like you got to you got to level 2. So it looks like you made it to the next one. So just to recap, because Yannick's saying this is over my head. I think one thing, the Docker Slim X-ray, we think it's always a good first step to kind of use that to understand what your layer construction is. The one thing about X-ray, which is a tool that's built into Docker Slim, is that the output for it is very verbose. It's very loud. It's sort of very noisy. The main thing that I use it for, in sort of like, as I'm getting started or in kind of a beginner context, is understanding what layers are constructed and how they're constructed and what size they are. So if you kind of look for where the layers are listed out in the Docker Slim X-ray output, it's pretty helpful for that. There's a ton of other information in it, and people use those X-ray reports for a bunch of different things. But the main point in this first sort of challenge, the first curse of the container, was that the layers were built incorrectly, right? So we tried to run our test. The test was looking for, all the test does is look to see if Flask is installed and throws the skull and crossbones if it's not. So by moving the test below the installing the requirements.txt, we've made it so that things now build in the right order and we don't get the skull and crossbones anymore.
Right. Okay. So I have a container running. It's this container ID here, in fact. So what we could do is actually attach to that running container and see what it's outputting. So let's just create another terminal window beneath the one I'm in. Are those fonts about the same size? I think that's close enough. So what we could do here is attach to this container. And that's the container ID we want to use. So now that's running, I should be able to refresh the app. And I can then go back to the thing here. And there we go. We can now... Oh, hello. You are still G. So we're seeing the usual output we'd expect from a web app out here, but there's there's something abnormal in the output. So okay, well, let's take a look at the Dockerfile again. In fact, let's nano the Dockerfile and okay. I think I'm supposed to be looking here. So why would they be unhappy about that? I tell you what, let's see if we can find out a bit more. So let's do Docker logs and take a look at the logs from that running instance. Okay. There's quite a lot being spat out there. Okay.
Yeah, so Eric says that he's not used Docker attach before, which I hadn't either before looking at before commissioning this article and as we were talking about it. And I think one of the main advantages of attach, which we aren't necessarily using here, but is that if you attach and you can actually pause your container while you're attached to it and then sort of pause it and unpause it, then you're sort of observing the container. It's very similar to using that -it flag for the interactive mode. It just lets you sort of like see what the output's going to be without losing your debug context. So what I usually do a lot is, start and stop containers, kill them off, get rid of them, but then you might be losing logs that you wanted, and stuff like that. So if you're running a container in daemon mode and you attach to it, then you'll start seeing the output. And then, you can use things like pausing and unpausing to see what's happening with the container. So.
Okay, so I've gone back to, so I've looked at the logs and I just have lots of what we can see on the screen that I'm jinxed and it's outputting data. So I've gone back to my X-ray, and what I can see here is the entry point for Python jinx. So that seems fine. So let's Docker inspect the cursed container, pipe it through less. So now we can see a bit more, and Eric was asking about environment variables. You see a bit more of what's going on inside the container. So let's start at the top here. So let's creating the container. It's running Python and it's running jinx. Okay, that's curious. So it's running two Python, or attempting to run 2 Python apps. Okay, so let's just look at our Dockerfile again. Ah, okay. Oh, there's the clue. So we just go back and look at what the the curse commands you still. So you might remember when we did Docker 101, we talked about entry points and commands. And what's happening here is the command gets appended to the entry point. So it's actually running Python jinx.py, but at no point is app.py being executed. I'm going to guess that app.py is probably the thing that we should indeed be running. So if we just edit our Dockerfile, and we could just simply drop jinx out of there, because then app.py will get appended. So if I stop that, have I still got that running in the background? Let's just check. No. Okay. So let's rebuild the container with that change. And we will run the container again. There it is. Run the container. So that container's running. So we'll go back to the web app and refresh. Oh, this is worse.
Well, okay. You're not getting cursed by a dread pirate anymore, so arguably it could be better, but yes, probably less useful.
Okay.
It does seem like maybe you've made it to a next, perhaps you've broken the second of 3 curses, and maybe now you're on to the last of the curses.
So let's Docker attach to this new container. And then we will run Docker inspect the cursed container. This isn't going to tell me anything helpful, is it? It's running all the right stuff now. So let's have a look at the logs for this current running container. Mm-hmm. There's a backtrace. You've put bugs in. I haven't got to debug some application, have I? What's this traceback telling me? OS list. Oh, aha. Permission denied. Permissions error. Okay, something about static images. Okay. And there's our error 500. Okay, fine. Okay, so let's grep static in the Docker file. Aha, there is a reference to static images. Right, what have we got then?
And I wonder if you could...
Here we go. What's the heck's this? Okay, go on.
Well, yeah, as you kind of look and see what's happening here, it looks like maybe there are some users being set, and maybe you could shell into the running container to see what is happening with that particular file or folder is one idea.
Okay. Scratching my head. Can't remember the incantation. So let's come out of, oops, hang on. Let's come out of there.
So Docker, that would be if you were to docker exec-it and run the shell. That'll put you into the container. So
okay, this was called cursed 001, I think I called it, didn't I? And that will be bin bash, I hope. Have I...
I think maybe it's just called cursed, actually, because cursed is the image name, whereas cursed is the container.
Okay, here we are. Okay, so we're in the app directory because that sets the work directory. And there is static, so that seems fine. I mean, it's owned by root. We're running as www data, but those are all root and world readable. So then we look in here and there's image. Oh, hello. What's this? Freddy Krueger, owned by Freddy Krueger Monster. And okay, that's rather prohibitive, the permissions on that images directory. I think this is the problem then. Okay, so that needs to be readable to the app, and the app is running as www data. So what's this? There was a thing called set user in the Dockerfile. Is that here? Yes. So what does set user says? Right. Okay. So this is saying change the ownership of something. All right. Okay. Well, let's exit from the container. Nano the Dockerfile. So let's have a look what was going on here. So it's sourcing set user. So that was, we get the user IDs and the group IDs. We add a group. We add a user to the group. We change the ownership of app static images. And then we set the, well, that seems unnecessary. So let's just keep that for a moment. Let's try that. Or do I want to make that? Let's just remove that for the moment. So then it runs www data. So I wonder if the default, let's see if the default permissions are any good, because we may have to change them. So we'll save that Docker file. We will make sure the container's not running, and it's not. So we'll rebuild our container and run it one more time. Let's see, Docker run. Yes. And I can actually, I need to refresh the app anyway, because I need to generate logs before I know whether it's working or not. Aha! Glorious success! Okay, have I passed the finish line?
The curse is broken. I can take the eye patch off now, because it's really hard to stream with an eye patch on, in case anybody has ever tried it. But yeah, you solved it. Yeah, obviously a little bit of a contrived example there, but if you look back at the blog post that we linked in the Git repo and that you can find on Slim.AI, there's a lot of cool like little tools and techniques like we used here. These are a sample of some of them. You know, user permission issues. They actually have some pretty cool ways of getting around environment variable setting, you know, user ID permissions, or how you would set those on build, which I thought was pretty insightful. I hadn't seen that done before. Eric is mentioning that environment variables are very difficult in my opinion to deal with in Docker containers. They take a lot of learning, and I really actually even struggled to break them in this example. So, you know, I think making sure your user permissions are set correctly, and you know, please look at that article to see that. I think that really works. And then, you know, as we saw, you know, Docker logs with the container name is a really great way to kind of debug and see what your container is spitting out. using that -IT interactive mode is really useful. Docker inspect really helps. And then of course, there's Docker Slim and the Slim.AI, the X-Ray and the Slim.AI SaaS that help you kind of understand layer construction, see where files and folders are, and then go from there. So.
Indeed. Now, there's a couple of things to add there, which is Docker Slim X-Ray. You can actually upload the X-Ray reports from Docker Slim into the Slim SaaS. So as you saw, the Docker Slim X-Ray reports are very verbose. There's a lot of information in there. But if you want like a nice overview, a visual representation of what all of that stuff means, then you can send those up to the Docker Slim SaaS and then explore your output in a more human-friendly manner. And I think you mentioned you actually managed to introduce a bug in your app and then used some of these debugging techniques to actually discover what you'd done wrong.
I was actually using the debugging techniques quite a bit. You actually did end up using the attach mode, but I ended up using that to actually reverse break something, because I was having a hard time actually getting it to break, and I needed to understand sort of why my test.py file was not writing permissions or not writing environment variables the way I thought that it would. So
right.
I used some cool stuff for that. And let's see, Eric was asking something about if it's easy to change from root in the base container. Do you know the answer to that? I think it has to do with sort of like how the base image is set up, right?
Is the question, Eric, changing the user context that the app runs in, or something else? If you want to change the user context, yes, it's very straightforward. Just bear with me one moment as I bring this up. If we look at the Dockerfile, and in fact, if I close that one there, we have a bit more space. This here is all that's required to instruct processes that the container launches to run under a different user context. And this was one of the things we covered in one of the Docker Container 101 sessions as like a best practice. By default, it will run in the root context, even though it's isolated in a container. Best practice dictates you should run it under and run your apps as a non-privileged user if at all possible.
Usually those base images will run as root, and again in the Slim SaaS you can see like what they run as a user, and that's pretty helpful. So if you were to comment this out and then rebuild the container and run it in that exec mode, you would actually show in as root. It's a little TBD whether these would have sort of sudo access that you could then change to if you were to just keep this as is and then exec into the container and then try to change it from there, but worth trying. So. Oh, and Danny says -- user or -u can be used when calling exec, so you can actually decide which user you want to enter the container with.
So Danny also asks, can I now go and fix their WordPress? Probably not, Danny. My understanding is you are expert level at WordPress, so I think I'll leave that one in your capable hands. And hello Aisha, one of our colleagues, is asking if we have any pirate eye makeup. Well, Aisha, you'll never know. You'll just have to decide whether or not we've gone the extra mile with the eye makeup, or if it's just an illusion.
Right.
Maybe I shouldn't go back to the main view.
There was a version of this where I was going to do ghost face paint, but probably better for everybody that didn't happen.
So we're going to probably on Monday follow up with an office hours in our Discord around this topic. Is that right?
Yeah. So one thing that's been pretty cool that's happened that I think is a pretty common use case is around container slimming. Actually, is just here we've been using sort of chmod or chmod and different sort of Linux commands to make some changes in the Dockerfile, and that actually has some pretty unexpected behaviors that are related to slimming and actually make your containers a lot bigger. So it's not a curse per se. Maybe it is a curse, but not like a deadly curse. And I think what we'll do in office hours is actually look into some of that behavior, use Docker Slim X-Ray to show that. And I know we've had a couple open source projects that, Kyle's been interacting with recently, Pyroscope and a couple others, that were having this issue where they thought they were deleting files from their containers, but it turns out they weren't.
Yeah.
They were actually just sort of shadow still in there. So by deleting those, they got a very quick win, much smaller containers. And that's something we can show off in office hours, which I think will be super cool.
Okay, nice. So a continuation of these sort of debugging techniques and also what to look for to give you a hint that maybe something is not all that it appears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is exactly right. And I think I saw that Yannick said he's going to be streaming here in, he said 15 minutes, but that was about 10 minutes ago. So just for people who haven't seen Yannick stream, it's really, really interesting. Definitely.
I wonder if Yannick is streaming, because you know what we could do? Because I think Yannick is streaming Flutter development. So let me just go and look and see, because if he is, we could maybe go and raid Yannick's channel and take some of our friends here over to Yannick's channel.
Yannick says
he's not ready. He's not ready. Okay. Well, maybe we can coordinate on a future occasion.
Yeah, he says he's going to start in a moment. But
Yannick, just post in the chat what your Twitch channel is, and then those that are here will know where to go to find out what it is you're working on. Because I think we'll probably wrap up here before you get going. Yeah.
So Monica had mentioned that he also streams on the Ubuntu On Air every 2 weeks, which is super cool. One thing we have coming up, Martin, that we haven't talked about yet, I don't think we've talked about it on Twitch, is that we are actually going to be on Cloud Native TV. And it's coming up faster than we thought. In about 3 weeks' time, on November 17th, we will be over the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, CNCF, who puts on KubeCon, and that is going to host Martin and myself. Pirate hats optional for that one in particular, but we'll be doing I think we'll probably do something of a combination of the Containers 101 into sort of common slimming, common best practices techniques, and we'll be over there. So that'll be a pretty exciting one. Maybe we'll get a few new friends to come over and join the stream with us. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. That's a little bit after bonfire night here, so I'm not sure I can get away with a bonfire night themed presentation for that one.
I'm not sure I know what bonfire night is. What is that like?
So this is where we celebrate burning a political dissident after his plot was foiled to blow up the Houses of Parliament. So Guy Fawkes was protesting and attempted to blow up the Houses of Parliament, and for some reason we celebrate this every year. It's hundreds of years ago. And we make up effigies of Guy Fawkes and burn them on a bonfire.
All right, that sounds
it's very cultured over here.
Yeah, here I was thinking it was a little weird as an American to be, celebrating Halloween in such an outward manner, and but we have good fun with it. We've got like purple lights on our house and all that kind of stuff. So, but we'll celebrate Bonfire Night and Guy Fawkes Day, and we can use some container themed. I don't know how we connect Guy Fawkes to the world of containers, but maybe we'll try to find a way for it.
Indeed. Well, I don't think Yannick is streaming just yet. I think he's but moments away. So we won't drag this out unnecessarily, but I will put Yannick's channel in the chat here. So although we are unable to raid, you can at least find Yannick over there. And I think he's doing Flutter stuff. A continuation of a VM related project, a little bit of fun that I started, and Yannick's taken it to the next level. So thank you all very much for coming. I hope to see you on Monday. If you're not in our Discord, please come and join us in our Discord. Go to Slim.AI and you'll find links to all of the places over there. And if you've got questions about any of this or follow on, or maybe you've got improvements or ideas for future container presentations that we might do. Oh, I see that Yannick is live. Hang on a minute, maybe we can do this thing after all. Is it doing it? Oh no, it's gone away again. he was live briefly, and then he wasn't. Oh well. We tried. Oh no, it says he's live. Let's have a look.
Well, if we can, I think it would be really cool to Radionics channel, and he says he is on now. So
he is in his getting started position. So let's do that. How do I do this? I think I have to do that, and then
I just want to say how appropriate it is that the first raid that we're doing from SlimDevOps, we are dressed as pirates. So this was not not planned, but I think it's appropriate. So.
A proper raid. Right then. So Yannick, I'm ready to push the button. So I hope you're ready to start talking. I see Yannick is ready. So thank you very much for coming, everyone. We're going to head over to Yannick's channel now.
Arg, see you over there.
Bye-bye.